This is one of the most terrible stories on our channel. I can't imagine how people can be so cruel. In this video, you will hear about the Houston criminal. You will learn his nickname and the number of ruined lives. Get ready to hear something shocking. This story gives me goosebumps. The story begins on September 26, 1986 in Houston, Texas. On this day in the middle of downtown Houston, 14-year-old Lori Tremblay disappeared. The girl went to school but never returned home. The next day, the police found her body. The girl was strangled and thrown behind garbage cans in the parking lot of the restaurant. The only clues were fingerprints and garrote marks on the neck. The police began the investigation by checking the available information. Unfortunately, the case was never solved. It was decided to suspend the investigation. On April 16, 1992, the city was again shocked by the terrible news. It was about 10 a.m. The courier got out of his car in the parking lot of a store in West Houston. He walked a few steps and was overcome by shock. He saw the body and immediately reported it to 911. Detectives immediately arrived at the scene. Criminologists have carefully examined the body, and again the traces of the tourniquet on the body. Someone was clearly preparing for a crime. The victim was 21-year-old Maria del Estrada. The girl was undoubtedly struggling with her rapist, but she had little chance. Samples were taken from under her fingernails for further DNA testing. A wave of panic swept through the city. During this period, the crime rate in Houston as a whole increased. Home invasions and robberies have become more frequent. The entire police force was in constant activity. People locked themselves in their homes, but even inside they did not feel safe. On August 7, 1994, 9-year-old Diana Rabillard disappeared. She just went out to get sugar at the nearest store. The worried mother went to look for her. Diana was nowhere to be found. The girl's father called 911 and a miracle remained to be expected. Over the next few hours, police began a massive search for the missing child. But it was not possible to find her in the first hours after her disappearance. As the sun set, the search shifted to the night shift. The police checked every corner of the city. One patrolman came across an abandoned warehouse. He went to inspect it and came across the body of the missing Diana. And again, the same homemade tourniquet was tightened around her neck. The locals began to get indignant. The killer managed to deceive the police for so long. Although all efforts have been directed at his capture for several years, it's been 10 months. On July 6, 1995, 16-year-old Dana Sanchez disappeared. The girl's parents reported her missing. The police decided that she had simply run away since she did not even live with her parents. But on July 14th, there was a call to the phone of the editor of a local news program. The caller described in detail where the body was, how it lay. The police went to the place the caller had told them about. Alas, they did find a body there. There was the same homemade tourniquet around his neck again. Yes, the body belonged to Dana Sanchez. It became clear that the serial killer hadn't stopped. Each time his crimes become more violent and sophisticated. He clearly felt his impunity. As time passed, the police made every effort. But there were no results. The killer was still walking free. Everything has been changed by the development of technology, and the stupidity of the criminal is outright. In 2003, a new state-of-the-art DNA laboratory opened in Dallas. The sheriff's department has decided to reopen the investigation of a series of murders committed in Houston using a tourniquet. We returned to the collected DNA traces on Maria del Estrada's body. All the data was sent to the Dallas laboratory for examination. The investigators decided to verify this data with all the DNA entered in the Register of Violent Criminals. On October 16, 2003, the long-awaited news finally arrived. DNA from under the fingernails of the murdered Maria matched the DNA of a man from Houston. He was immediately arrested and brought in for questioning. During the interrogation, he confessed everything. Anthony Allen Shore was born on June 25, 1962. Shore's parents were military. He had 2 sisters. Shore claimed that he was abused in his youth. Physical abuse on the part of the father and sexual abuse on the part of the mother. In 1976, his parents divorced. Anthony was too scrupulous about almost everything. He hated getting dirty and regularly lectured his sisters. Anthony hung socks on hangers, wore only silk underwear, and was always neat. At a young age, he began molesting the girlfriends of his two younger sisters. Together with Gina, they often rode bicycles around the neighborhood. One day, Anthony told his sister to ask the girl next door to come out and play with them. He started aggressively molesting this girl. One day he came home and bragged about how he and his friends had beaten up a homeless man. They beat him so badly that they thought he was dead. This is extremely inhumane, I tell you. When Anthony got his license, he began to take his sister on car trips, claiming that when they are together, the girls are more willing to get into his car. Anthony also went to a psychiatrist in his youth. The guy was diagnosed with antisocial behavior. When one of the daughters was about 10 years old, her father started coming to her at night and touching himself. He was watching her in bed. One evening, Tiffany was playing cards and her father fed her drink after drink. She woke up to her own father attacking her. This can lead to sexual abuse of both girls. Tiffany became even more withdrawn into herself. One day, Tiffany decided to take her own life. She took a large overdose of aspirin. The attempt was unsuccessful. He was married twice. Both marriages turned out to be unhappy. The first one was taken from 1983 to 1997. In 1997, he tied the knot with Amy Lynch. Their marriage ended in divorce. The woman accused him of abusing his daughters. Anthony received 8 years probation for sexually abusing his daughters. He was put on the register of violent criminals, and a DNA sample was taken from him. That's exactly how the tests were compared 6 years later. So, back to the arrest and interrogation of this terrible man. He talked a lot during the interrogation. He said he wasn't going to kill Maria Della Strada. He confessed to the murders of Lori, Maria, Dana, Diana, and the rape of 14-year-old Selma. Shore told law enforcement officials that he went to bars, seduced strangers, and pumped them with Rohypnol. Then he took his victims to the back of his van and attacked them. The news of the serial killer's arrest was broadcast on all news channels. Anthony is only being tried for Maria's murder because he has hard evidence. They also call the rape victim and Tiffany to testify, trying to get the death sentence. A trial was held in 2004. He was sentenced to death. Shore's lawyers began to claim that their ward had previously suffered from brain damage. It was claimed that this made him unsuitable for execution in this way, as for example, minors and people with mental retardation. As a result, the appeal was rejected only in early 2017. He has been behind bars for all these 13 years. It is reported that the perverted Turnitet killer Anthony Shore boasted about 60 more rapes. The execution took place only on January 18, 2018. Anthony Shore was executed by lethal injection, lying on a gurney while prison staff strapped him in. Anthony regretted what he had done, but there was nothing he could do about it. After that, he lost consciousness and was pronounced dead 13 minutes later. The daughters admitted that they were relieved. They could not believe that everything was finally over. Subscribe and like.